Hello and welcome to your first exercise, which is going to be called Making a Simple Motion Tween. As I've mentioned, there are going to be two sort of instructional spots for each of these exercises. The first is going to be these videos, which I use something called Screencast-O-Matic. So you'll see when I move my mouse around that hopefully it gets highlighted. You get to see where I'm moving around within Flash. Each of these exercises will also have a step-by-step tutorial, sort of step 1, step 2, step 3, and for the most part I will be following my own step-by-step tutorial, so you'll sort of see how I mentioned step 1, step 2, step 3, etc. Okay, so with that said, looking at our Making a Simple Motion Tween handout, which you should have on D2L, we have sort of two parts to this exercise. One is creating the graphic, and the second is creating the tween. I'll explain what a tween is here in a minute. This first part, I'm going to sort of skip the first couple steps. We open Flash. When Flash opens, it should give you a screen to tell you what kind of file you would like. We're going to create that ActionScript 3.0 file that I mentioned in the Flash Basics video. Okay. If you already have Flash open, you might come over here and go to File, New, and then you can create this ActionScript 3.0 file, which is right there. Just as an aside, over here on the right, you have your width and your height. Later in the semester, I'll ask you to change file sizes. Here you have what's called your frame rate, which I mentioned in the Flash Basics video as well. You can also change your background color if you would like to. Okay, we're just going to keep this as is. And sort of deal with this simple white document. Okay, so we're actually going to start at step 4 here at the top, where there are various menus items. Choose Insert a New Symbol. I'm going to go to Insert a New Symbol, and I want to sort of take a look at this window right here. Okay, a symbol, as I sort of again briefly mentioned in the Flash Basics video, is something that lives in the library, which is going to be over here, that we use on our stage or our timeline to sort of create animated elements. Okay, a symbol can be one of a few things. If we click this Type drop-down menu, which I'm sort of moving into step 6 here, we have a movie clip, which is a much more complicated symbol. We have a button, which allows for interactivity. Again, this class is called Interactivity, so we're going to interact at some point. And the last one, which is actually the most simple one, is called a graphic. We're just making as you can probably tell as we move through this, a green ball. Okay. Step 5, actually I should have mentioned, it says name the symbol green ball. Okay, so I'm going to type in green ball. So I'm creating a graphic right here that's called green ball. Okay. Now, step 7 says you will leave the stage at this point and enter the library where you will create the graphic. What this means is when I click OK, which I'm going to click here in a second, notice this white background. It's basically going to change to a larger white background, and that means we're sort of leaving the scene. I can tell I'm in the scene by looking right here. It says Scene 1. And we're entering the green ball. Okay, this area right here is always going to tell us kind of where we're at. Right now we're kind of inside the library. If I wanted to, I could click back to Scene 1 and I get this sort of I get the stage. If I want to go back to green ball, I can double click on green ball, the symbol in the library. Okay, so even before we've done anything, we've introduced some pretty important concepts. One is that we have a symbol inside the library, and then when we create that symbol, we sort of are in this expansive area right here where we can sort of create that green ball. Okay, now on my Flash Basics video, I talked about this stroke and fill color. We're actually going to sort of head right into that. It's going to become important right off the bat. So, step 8 says click on the stroke color and choose the white box with the red stripe through it. No stroke color. Mine's already sort of set to that. If yours isn't, you can click here and then it's sort of tucked away in the top right there. Okay, so I click on there and then choose no stroke. Okay. Click on the fill color box and choose a shade of green. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to choose a shade of green. Okay, so I have no stroke and a shade of green. Okay, then it says choose the oval tool in the toolbox. The oval tool, we have all these different shape tools, the polystar tool, the rectangular tool. Here is the oval tool. Okay, now it says click, hold, and draw a circle. It's talking about over here on the actual symbol when we're in the library. It says in parentheses, you can make sure it's a perfect circle by holding down Shift on your keyboard. So I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to click, hold, and I'm going to draw that circle. Okay. Last, and this is sort of the last step of part 1, it says use the selection tool, which I talked about in the Flash Basics, that's this black arrow, and select the circle you have drawn by clicking on it and position it in the center. So I'm going to click on this. You'll see that when I click on this, it selects it. I'm going to zoom in so you can see that a little bit better. Okay, this is going to become handy. You'll see it's sort of these little dots. It might be hard to see in my video, but you should be able to see it. If I click on and off, it sort of selects that thing. It means if I sort of grab it, I can move it around. Okay, I'm going to zoom back out, and I'm going to select this thing and just sort of position it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but in the center of this hash mark. You'll notice that each symbol has sort of a center. Later that's going to become a little more important. So I'm just going to center that thing, and we've basically created our graphic. Okay, it doesn't do anything yet. It hasn't even entered the movie yet, but there it is. Okay, it's probably the most simple thing we can make in Flash. Okay, we're going to pop over now to actually the part 2 of this exercise where it says creating the tween. So step 1 of part 2, so make sure you're sort of following along on the sheet if you're using both the video and the sheet. It says click on scene 1 in the top left. Remember I said this tells us where we're at. Right now we're sort of inside the green ball. If I click on scene 1, we pop over to this blank scene. Okay, it doesn't really have anything on it. If you want to move your workspace around a little bit, we can sort of hover over this area right here, and you'll see these arrows appear. We can sort of move this up so we have a little more space for our stage here. Step 2 says take the graphic from the library called Green Ball and drop it on the stage in the bottom left. So I'm literally going to go over here to the library. I only have one symbol in the library. I'm going to click, hold, and drag that thing over bottom left of the stage. Okay. Now, a couple things to notice. One is that as soon as I put something on the stage here, I have up here what's called layer 1. Okay. This is basically the first spot in which anything can go. You will notice, and I'm going to back out a little bit actually, I'm going to undo. You'll notice this thing is basically a little rectangle, and you can see it on your version of Flash, with sort of a hollow or see-through circle. It's sort of hard to tell. This is what's called a keyframe. Keyframes are very, very important. Okay. What I always sort of describe in relation to keyframes is that in this frame, in this what is going to become a keyframe, we are stating that something is so, meaning that this green ball is on the bottom left of the stage. Okay, you'll notice that once there's something in there, that changes to a solid black circle inside that keyframe. Okay. Step 3 says move up to frame 60 in the timeline and click on that frame. So I'm going to go up here on that frame 60. Okay, we're basically giving it a little space, in this case 60 frames. Okay, and it says choose insert timeline frame. So I'm going to go to insert timeline frame. Okay, we're basically extending the movie out. Okay, you can see now that that red playhead moves across. Before it was just a movie that was sort of one frame long. It didn't necessarily do anything. Okay. Now it says choose any frame between frame 1 and frame 60 and click on that frame. So I'm just going to go somewhere here in the middle. Okay. And it says at step 6 choose insert motion tween. So I'm going to go to insert motion tween. Okay. You'll notice very quickly that turns blue. That indicates that there's a motion tween. Okay. Now, before we sort of head into actually creating this tween, I want to sort of why is this called a tween? A tween actually stands for in between. Okay. So in the sort of process of creating an animated element, you have in this case what is going to be 2 keyframes. Here at the beginning we have one keyframe, and then we're going to end up with another frame down here, or a keyframe down there. And this in between, that's where the tween comes from, is information that Flash sort of generates once we denote, sort of in this case, point A and point B. Okay, so that's why it's called a tween. It stands for in between. Little animation history, and we'll get into this a little bit more when we talk about frame-by-frame animation. But if you think of something like Disney or old animated movies, often the in-between frames were things that had to be hand-drawn. Another sort of historical note is that the very sort of well-known artists would draw what were considered these keyframes, the important parts, maybe where Mickey Mouse was standing still and you saw Mickey Mouse for a bit longer. And then younger, less experienced artists would draw the in-between frames. That was because you didn't see those for as long on the screen. They weren't as important because they were simply part of the movement. Okay, so let's go back to our step-by-step here. It says step 7, click directly on frame 60. I'm going to click directly on frame 60, so if you were back here, let's go so that frame 60 sort of is highlighted there. And it says with the selection tool, the black arrow, which we've used before, grab the green ball and move it to the top right of the stage. Okay, so we're going to go bloop, all the way to the top. Couple things. You'll notice this path sort of came up there. Okay, that is sort of showing us where this tween is happening, what direction it's happening, and it also gives us evidence that it is happening. You will also notice up here on the timeline, and I'll sort of move this away, that this diamond-shaped thing appeared in frame 60. That's an indication, that's a tween frame or another type of keyframe, that we have stated sort of point B. Okay, I'm going to move my playhead across, and now we see sort of our green ball moving from point A to point B. Okay, this is the most simple type of tween. It's a motion tween, and it's the beginning of a much more complicated animation, which we're going to get into later in the semester. Now, steps 9 through 13 are quite important in the sense that this is something you're going to have to do every time you do an exercise. First and foremost, we're going to have to save. So I'm going to go to File, Save As. Note that when you save for the first time, you're just like a sort of Word document, your file save as instead of save. We need to sort of, I'm on a Mac, so if you're on a PC, this is going to look slightly different. I have my 2D animation folder, and step 10 says name your file, your first name, your last name, underscore motion tween. Okay, so for me, it's going to be David Luke underscore motion tween. Note that when you go to save something, and I'm just sort of highlighting this, it adds the .fla file to it. Okay, this is a standard Flash file. This is like the .docx for Microsoft Word. Please do not type in .fla. That's going to sort of automatically attach to that. This is your master Flash file that you're going to open. Okay. In a minute, we are going to create what's called a .swf. This is the file that Flash exports to sort of show us our movie. The .swf files, generally speaking, are the files that I want you to hand in. Okay, so note on the handout, and you can sort of move up to step 13 and see that you hand in the completed SWF. Okay, I'm going to call those SWFs. Okay, but first I'm going to save this master file. I'm going to hit save, and I've saved this file. You'll see the name sort of appear there. It's very important you guys use these file names. Next thing I'm going to do is choose Flash document from the format window. Okay, I'm going to choose step 12, control test movie. So I go to control test movie in Flash Professional, and what is created is a separate file. This is called David Luke underscore motiontween.swf. Okay, this file will land in the exact same folder that you created, or saved your .fla file in there. So this is the file you are going to hand in. Go to your folder where you saved your .fla and you will find this folder. that is it for motion tween.